Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to week number 7, module 7 of HRD 631. We are, as I said, in week number 7, which is really the halfway point of the course. So congratulations on making it this far. I know at this point of the semester, feels like things are getting pretty complicated. We have a lot of materials. I know from some of the emails that I'm getting in this and my other class, there's just a lot going on. So I want to thank everybody for staying up with the materials. And if you need any help during the week, please let me know. I'm here to help. So in this week, I think we're taking a shift here. We've been looking at kind of the American model, the traditions to adult learning theories, and also traditional adult learning theories in general, adult development. Now we're shifting gears, and I want to say we're shifting in a somewhat fundamental way towards areas that maybe are less comfortable in certain cultures to describe. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just from a strictly logical standpoint of learning theories, we're now looking at it from a different perspective. And what I mean by that is in chapter 9, we're looking at embodied spiritual and narrative learning. Then chapter 10, learning and knowing. So we're looking at the Eastern perspectives and indigenous perspectives, which really are, learning is still learning. People learn when they need to, adults learn when they need to, but there's something that happens in a non-logical, linear way, and I want to say that these topics that we're talking about this week in particular, and then we've some of it in upcoming, really kind of twist the American viewpoint or the Western viewpoint in a way that makes us think. And I'll stop right there because I don't want to taint anybody's view of what one is right or one is wrong or what we're going to be talking about. So, both of these are really important concepts. And, I'm learning this embodied learning, spiritual and narrative learning. I personally have been really interested in these two areas, the embodied, meaning the movement. How do we know? Sometimes we just know something, or we learn something in a certain way by moving to it, by we not just sitting in a chair. And one of the thoughts I've had reading these and studying a lot about both of these chapters is that the way that we learn in the United States and other parts of the world where we're sitting quietly in a chair might not be the best way for a lot of people. And, getting out and doing and moving our bodies is very conducive to learning. And in the spiritual aspect, I've been teaching for quite some time, and I also have been leading formal and informal workshops for over 30 years, and I'm always amazed at what happens in spite of what I do, especially in an in-person workshop, and I felt it in this class in some of the discussion forums. They take on a life of their own, and I default to what's happening here is something that I can't even explain, and it's so much better than myself. About the only thing maybe I've done is set up the conditions that are conducive to learning. But there's certainly a spiritual, and I don't mean a religious aspect, I mean a spiritual aspect. Something happens, and it involves grace, and it's just a wonderful thing. So the spiritual, and then the narrative learning. We learn by telling stories. I've been enamored with studying nurses in Maine and beyond Maine, and I've worked with many nurses over the years on adult, how do you teach, or and what are some of the adult learning considerations. I've led many workshops, but the thing that has always impressed me And right in the house that I live, we live in a multi-generational house. I have my wife who's been a nurse for 42 years. My daughter's a nurse practitioner, and she's been a nurse also. She still is a nurse. And my son-in-law is a paramedic, firefighter. And between the two of them and an endless amount of people over here, the amount of learning that goes on when they're talking about their patients. Now, they don't get into saying Mr. or Mrs. Smith at this age. They just talk about their experience, and how they talk about it is in such a way there's tremendous learning that goes on. And I look at other cultures where a tremendous amount of learning goes on by telling stories. So I find these next two chapters in this week to be totally, very fascinating. And I've concluded that there's something happens beyond the formal classroom walls as far as adult education and adult learning. So from a nuts and bolts standpoint, we have chapter 9, chapter 10. I put in some optional discussion post readings, embodied in spiritual learning video. I have a TED Talk, the story, basically narrative learning. And then I put in, I think one of my favorite videos that I use in this course is on non-Western education and traditions. And if you haven't studied much along that lines, you might be in for a treat this week. So I do want to highlight this. Due to the learning reflection paper, meaning the LRP, that is due next Sunday, participation in the discussion forum this week is optional. I am not going to keep track of who is posting, but I also wanted to have a place that if somebody did want to post something based on the readings, they can do it. And here's some guidance. But once again, the discussion forums this week are strictly optional. Please do not feel like you have to go and post something. I'd rather you focus in on the assignment. So what's involved? Well, I mentioned it in the Zoom meeting, and I have a couple of videos to go along with the Zoom meeting. So here we are. There's one on the paper itself, which is very similar to what I discussed in the Zoom meeting. And then I have something on APA formatting. I don't want you to spend all of your time on the formatting. I prefer that you spend time developing your thoughts surrounding this topic. And I won't go into really much detail beyond. I'd appreciate if you would take a look at these videos, especially this one on the purpose of this paper. I'd also encourage you to take a look at the syllabus for specific information. So you may have to copy and paste this into your browser. If you have any problem finding that, please let me know. So I'd also mention that our exploration project presentations are coming up in the latter part of the class, specifically in weeks 12, 13, and 14. There's a possibility that we may start these in week 11, but I will send out a Zoom, or not a Zoom, I'll send out a doodle poll shortly, and I will make a decision on, are we going to include week 11 to this mix. But when you get that, it's self-explanatory, and it might not be until next week or week number 8 materials. I'll send it out with that in a link, but in effect, you will be signing up to present your exploration project. You don't need to present it now. You don't need to have materials ready. It's more like a placeholder. If you want to go in the first week, you sign up. If you want to go in the last week, you sign up. More information on that. So next week, we will be reading, in addition to some in the text, we'll be taking a look at these. These are 4 different excerpts from books. And it's kind of under the heading of learning from other people's stories. Okay, Advanced Organizer, here it is for next week. I'll keep on going down. Down here we have the Advanced Organizer and the introduction to this week. We have electronic reserve materials, and once again the separate Advanced Organizers. We have an optional discussion forum for this week, not required, optional, and then the assignment. So please see the syllabus and watch the videos for information on that. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you want to set up a Zoom with me, you're struggling with the learning reflection paper, please contact me and we can either talk on the phone, we could email, we could set up a Zoom. I'm here to help. So I hope you enjoy this material this week. And once again, if you want to participate, you want to put something out on our discussion forum, I welcome that. I'll certainly take a look at it, but I'm not going to be keeping track of who is actually participating and who isn't. So good luck this week. I hope you enjoy the materials, and we'll see you online. Thank you.